Hello my dear students. So once again we are back with our YouTube tutorial video. So in last class we had discussed about the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity in a competitive market. Okay, so we had taken one example, okay, numerical example, and with the help of that we had explained the equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity in a competitive market. So the same concept, okay, the concept of equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity can be also explained with the help of this diagram. Okay, so that is called diagrammatic representation of equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. So we know that we will get the equilibrium is a situation or the point where quantity demand and quantity supply in a market will be equal. Okay, so we had taken the example of shirt, and the equilibrium price of shirt was 800 rupees. Okay, so that is already explained in the previous video. If you watch that, you will understand. And same concept here I am going to explain with the help of this diagram. Now let's consider two axes. This is your origin, this is our x-axis, okay, and this is our y-axis. Now in this x-axis, okay, x-axis and y-axis. So here we are measuring, suppose say, quantity demand, okay, quantity demand and quantity supply. So here see, we know that quantity demand, the shape of the curve will be downward sloping. So let's represent this one dd as the quantity demand. Okay, here dd represents quantity demand, and we know that demand is a downward sloping. So in a competitive market, when we are talking about this one, no, a demand curve, so the shape of the demand curve will be downward sloping. Similarly, in a competitive market, the shape of supply curve will be upward sloping. So suppose say S is our supply curve. Okay, so initial demand curve we have dd, and SS is the supply curve. Now the question is where we will get the equilibrium point. Okay, so in definition we have mentioned that equilibrium is the point at which quantity demand and quantity supply will be same, or the intersection point of demand and supply. So if you see here, see, this is your demand curve and this is our supply curve. So demand and supply is intersecting each other, okay, intersecting each other at, suppose say, point E. Okay, point E. Now this point E is our equilibrium point. Okay, equilibrium point. Why? Because the quantity demand and the quantity supply is same at this point. Now if you draw a line on this price axis, suppose this is our price axis, this y-axis is our price axis, and x-axis is, suppose quantity demand. Now if we draw a straight line on this, we will get equilibrium price. Now suppose say P, OP, okay, OP is our equilibrium price, and if we draw a straight line from this equilibrium point on quantity axis, we'll get equilibrium quantity. Suppose see OQ is the equilibrium quantity. Now see here, once again, OP is the price, equilibrium price, and OQ is the equilibrium quantity. I will write it here. OP is our equilibrium price, okay, and OQ, you can check it here, OQ is our equilibrium quantity, and here this point E is our equilibrium point. So these are the three things which we have to determine. So that one we have already done. Now we will consider some situation where we'll consider little higher price, and at little higher price we'll try to check what will happen on equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. Now let's consider, suppose say price increases from this OP to, suppose say OP1. Okay, here see, now I'm taking the situation, or I'm taking the cases where I'm taking the price little higher compared to equilibrium price. That means here the price is increasing from OP to OP1. Now at this price OP1, if we draw a straight line from here, I will draw this dotted line, you can take it here. Okay, suppose say at this price OP1, now let's give the name this one as M, this one as, suppose say, N. Okay, I have given this point name as M and this one as N. Now here we have to see, okay, what is the actual demand, what is the actual supply. Now there is a shortage of demand or there is shortage of supply, or there is a situation of excess demand or excess supply. We have to check it. Okay, now see here. At this price OP1 you can see that the quantity demand, no, quantity demand, if you draw a line from here, okay, if you draw a line from here, let's give this one name as OQ1. So at this price OP1, demand is only at price OP1, okay, at price OP1. Just wait, I will write it here. At price OP1, okay, at price OP1. Now note it, what are the things. So here demand, because this line, this price line is intersecting the demand at point M, okay. So actually this P1M, this quantity demand QD is equals to P1M. Once again check it. At price OP1, this demand, this line is intersecting the demand curve at this point. So either you can consider OQ1 or P1M, OQ1 or P1M, OQ1, yeah, OQ1, P1M. You can consider P1M or OQ1. So these two are same. So quantity demand is P1M or OQ1, and quantity supply, see this again, this line is intersecting the supply curve at point N. So either you can consider the quantity supply as P1N or you can give another name. We can draw this line. Suppose say, let's consider this one Q2, okay, Q2. So quantity supply will be either P1N, we can write it P1N or OQ2, okay. P1M or OQ1 is your quantity demand, and quantity supply is P1N or OQ2. So here see, now quantity demand is only P1M, but quantity supply is P1N. Now which one is greater? Quantity demand is greater or quantity supply is greater? So here I can see that the quantity supply is greater, okay, P1N. So P1N is greater than P1N is greater than P1M, That means what situation is there? There is a situation of excess supply. Supply is greater than demand. So this, okay, situation of excess supply, okay. Okay, there is a situation of excess supply. Now here, by how much amount there is a situation of excess supply? So you can see that MN is your excess, supply. So if price increases from OP to OP1, okay, price increases from OP to OP1, we can see that the quantity demand is P1M or this P1M or this OQ1 is same, okay. And quantity supply, because this line is intersecting the supply curve at point N. So quantity supply is P1N, or if you draw a line here, OQ2, okay. Now at this price, higher price OP1, there is a situation of excess supply, and we know that when there is an excess supply of any commodity in the market, there will be the tendency to fall in price. Now what will happen? Slowly the price will decrease, okay, price will decrease and move towards the equilibrium, because in a market the consumer and the producers, they want to come in equilibrium price where the quantity demand and quantity supply will be same at a particular price. So here OP0 is the equilibrium price. Now we'll consider the next situation where price is less than the equilibrium price. Okay, so I will just explain you. Yeah, now I'm going to consider the next situation where price, suppose a price is OP2, that means price is lower than the equilibrium price. Now here also we'll see what will happen, what will be the effect on equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity, and there will be the situation of excess demand or excess supply, and if it is so, then what will be impact on price. So we'll determine here. Now suppose say in next situation price is OP2, which is less than the equilibrium price OP. Okay, now at this price OP, if you draw a dotted line, suppose say this give name as R and this point as S. Okay, now if we draw this price line, then we can see that here this price line is intersecting or touching the supply curve at point R, and this line is again intersecting the demand curve at point S. Now at price OP2, at this price OP2, now quantity demand. See what is the quantity demand. Now quantity demand is, because see this line is intersecting the demand curve at point S, that means P to S. Quantity demand is how much? P to S. I hope you are understanding. Quantity demand is P to S, and the quantity supply is P to R, because this line, price line, is intersecting the supply curve at point R. So quantity supply is equals to P to R. Okay, quantity demand. Why quantity demand is P to S? Because this price line is intersecting the demand curve at point S. So this much P to S is your quantity demand. Again, if you see this quantity supply, then see this line is intersecting the supply curve. This is our supply curve. It is intersecting at point R. Okay, intersecting at point R. That means P to R is our quantity supply. Now see here you have to compare it, whether the quantity demand is greater or quantity supply is greater. Now see P to S is greater than P to S is greater than P to R. P to S is greater than P to R. Okay, that means quantity demand, quantity QD is greater than QS. QD is greater than QS. That means quantity demand is greater than quantity supply. So if quantity demand is greater than quantity supply, then the situation of excess demand will arise. Okay, situation of what will arise? Excess demand. Okay, now here you have to know by how much amount there is a excess demand. So there is excess demand. Excess demand by how much amount? RS. Excess amount by RS. That means RS is the excess demand. Now when there is a excess demand for a commodity in the market, okay, when there is a excess demand for a commodity in the market, then obviously what will happen? The price will increase, and slowly the price will increase. Okay, because there is a situation of excess demand, and when there is excess demand for a commodity in the market, the price will increase, and finally it will reach the equilibrium, that is at point E. And we know that at what is the equilibrium price, or equilibrium price OP. Equilibrium price is OP. So when there is a excess demand or excess supply, there is a tendency, okay, there is a tendency to either, suppose see there is a situation of excess supply, and when there is a situation of excess supply, price will fall and it has a tendency to move towards the equilibrium. Now in second case, if there is an excess demand situation, okay, if there is an excess demand situation, again there is a tendency to rise in price, and again it will reach the equilibrium point. So whenever we are dealing with the market will try to come at the equilibrium level, where quantity demand and quantity supply will be same at some given price. So what is our given price or equilibrium price here? Equilibrium price is OP. OP is our equilibrium price. Okay, where we can see that demand and supply is same.